Hello, hello everyone. Welcome to COVID-19 CommunityResources.com Town Hall Meeting, powered by the Center for Closing the Health Gap. We have a really special town hall today, and I want to thank Tropikana for organizing this. We're going to have some personal stories from survivors of COVID-19. It's a scary topic. All of us are just, terrified, confused, maybe angry, maybe just hurt and sad. There are just a lot of emotions going on. And so we're going to talk about all of that today, but we will get to hear from survivors who actually have been through this in a really personal way. So we want to thank you for joining us. Before we get started, I've got to give a shout out to our tech team, Lauren Hardin and John Reichel. Thank you so much. Renee Mahaffey-Harris, the president and CEO of the Center for Closing the Health Gap, will join us as we go along. Also, one of our guests, DJ Merkout, is on the way. So let me introduce those who are here. Well, Tropikana, you guys know her, and she's going to be co-moderator with me. We're going to do this together today, so I'm really excited working with her. And our other two guests, Glori Smith, Glori Wave. Let people know who you are. Okay, there she is. And also Patrice Horton. And it looks like, thank you, Patrice. And it looks like DJ Merkout is on. All right, so everybody's here. So let me would each of you just say a few opening words, and then we're gonna listen to your story, okay? So let's start with Patrice Horton.
Hi, I'm Patrice Horton. I am from Cleveland, Ohio, which this is where I reside. My business is here. I am in PR and brand management, so I work with high-profile athletes and entertainers. And I am a COVID survivor and dealing with family members who are now very ill because of COVID.
Wow, we're gonna talk more about that, but thank you for being here and thank you for sharing with us. Okay, Glori Smith, you want to say a few words?
She might be on mute. You might need to unmute your settings, Glori.
And hey, everyone, I should just say, unless you're at a really noisy place, you can stay unmuted because you might want to make some comments as we go along. I'll totally leave that up to you though. Glori, can you hear us? You're still mute. But Glori, we're gonna come back. We're gonna come back to you, okay? Let's go to DJ Merkout. Just say a few words.
How you doing? Real name is Kenora Johnson. Go by DJ Merkout. I've been DJing for 8 years now from downtown Cincinnati. Graduated from NKU with computer programming. So
wow,
I was definitely a COVID survivor. So I'm here still.
And we're so glad to see you, and thank you for sharing. Glori, can you unmute yet? How are you doing over there? I know this whole technology thing. Do you want us to come back to you? Okay, we'll come back. All right, let's do this. Tropikana, why don't you say a few words for starting out, like why you thought this program was important to do?
First, hi, I'm Tropikana. Hey, y'all homegirl. We've been kind of having this conversation about COVID for the last few weeks, and we've had a lot of interesting content on these town halls and these talks, and a very big thank you to you, Councilmember Kearney, because you have just been leading such a great dialogue. We've talked to doctors. I've had my experience going to get tested, and it seems that every day I am, either running into a new family member who has been diagnosed with COVID or a coworker. And the thing that I still continue to see is people our age and our demographic still kind of think it's a joke. They think it's a conspiracy theory. We're getting ready to let our kids go back to school, and we need to know the real deal about COVID. How does it affect people? So it was really important to me to be able to have these conversations. All three of the people that are on the line is someone who had a story that compelled me to want to hear more about it. DJ Merkout was the first person that I saw who had contracted COVID, and he did his story coming straight out the hospital, out of breath, DJing on live, and I watched the whole 20 or 30-minute live because it was just so intriguing to see it. Glori is my god sister. So my godmother is currently in the hospital now with COVID. And then Patrice, when I posted the story about my testing experience, she was the first person who commented and said that she had contracted COVID. And it was such a very real experience. And she has some other things that were going on due to COVID as well. And they're just so real that it's just important that we get real about the topic. So I just thought it was important that we hear straight from the people who have actually experienced it.
And, you know, Tropikana, so you mentioned your testing experience. Tell us about that.
Oh, honey. Now you experience. We were going to the club. I didn't want to go. Want to go get tested, Trop? No, I don't. But in going to get tested, for me, it was a funny experience, but it was also a learning experience for myself. And that was when I got a chance to see I wasn't the only person who, you know, was kind of leery of going to get tested for COVID because you don't know what to think. And we've heard so many statistics and so many rumors and they got COVID. I don't want to have COVID. What happens if I get tested? Do I have to shut my life down? We had not dealt with it. So I was kind of embarrassed when I pulled up. I got there and I kind of shared this with you guys. I'm still fairly new in the city, so nobody really kind of knows me because I've been laying low.
I think everybody knows you though. So
I pulled up to the testing site, and when I got there, I was like, this will be quick. I'll just pull up, get home. Nobody will know it was me down here. And as soon as I got there, the young lady walked up and was like, hey, Trop. Like, girl, shut up. Shut up. But theirs was so quick. They were friendly. It was easy. I was so afraid because I saw the swab that President Trump put on TV that was like long, and I was like, I'm not going to get it. I don't care if I got it or not. I'm just going to have it. I'm not sticking it up my nose. And when I got there, it was little. It was just a quick swirl, stick it in. And the hardest part was waiting for my results. I mean, that's just because I'm crazy. But even in that, it went quick and it was easy. And when it was over and done with, one, as a mother, I felt so much more relieved to know whether I had it or not. I have a 4-year-old. We see him on live. He runs through here. He's in the living room screaming now. And he has congenital heart disease. So for me, I'm always cautious of what I'm doing to make sure that I can protect him and how we live. So it's just important. And I encourage everybody to go get tested.
That's so important. I was tested too, and I was scared to death because I am a total wuss. But I was actually talking on the phone. I leaned over, they swabbed my nose. I kept talking. I'm like, that was nothing. And you're right. The feeling afterwards is at least at least you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so you know what to do.
Tested, and we have actual survivors who have experienced it. If the testing is what would put us in fear, just imagine what their experiences was. It's okay. Merkout, can you just share a little bit of your story?
Yeah. First of all, you when you got tested, how did they test you?
It was a Q-tip, a long Q-tip, but not the long one.
See, I had the long one. They stuck it up my nose. And she was like, I'm gonna count to 3. And then she was like 1. When she was going to 2, she stuck it up my nose. Let me tell you something. I almost hit that nurse.
But it was quick though, right? Wasn't it quick?
It was quick, but they had to do it on both sides, and it burned so much. It was quick, but that's not. I mean, going through that, I don't know. So my uncle worked at Tri-Health Hospital, and I noticed. So my house caught on fire December, so I was staying with him while we was fixing my house up in January, and for the 2 weeks that I was with him, I noticed he wasn't wearing no gloves, no mask, no nothing. So fast forward, March came, and he just came to me and he said, man, I think I'm sick. And I said, well, you probably got the flu. And he said, nah, I think I got the virus. And I told him, like, we don't get the virus. That's something that, we don't get. So every day though, you see him getting worse and worse. He was sweating a lot. It was freezing in the house. He was in the house all day. He wouldn't eat. And then finally March the 20th, he couldn't breathe. So we ended up taking him to the hospital, called an ambulance. They came and got him. The next day they called us and said, well, there's nothing really we can do. He's dying. So we like, well, how can I tell that within 24 hours? So preconditions he had thyroids. I don't know how bad they were, but I know he did have thyroids. His neck would swell up. So fast forward again. Now at this time, it's March 21st. I haven't ate in probably 9 days, and I'm thinking I got the flu because I rarely get sick. So I'm like, I probably just got the flu, but I ain't ate in 9 days. So then April 2nd, I woke up and I literally, like, I couldn't breathe at all. So I was trying to blow air out. So I ended up losing, when unconscious, fell. Cousin must have called the police because I woke up in the ambulance, went there. Now, on March 30th, I thought something was wrong. I went to the hospital. I was probably in there for 10 minutes. They didn't test me. They wouldn't test me. They said, well, you got to take Tylenol, extra strength, and you will be okay. So then I went back. Then they did an x-ray of my chest. They said I had caught pneumonia. I've never, I'm 36. I've probably been sick all of maybe 4 or 5 times. So when they told me I caught pneumonia, I didn't really understand. I didn't understand that. So caught pneumonia, they ended up keeping me, went upstairs. And then from April 2nd, and this was like at like 8:40 to like 3 in the morning, my oxygen level went from 97 to 20. So it dropped all the way down. So then I wasn't scared, but I was like, I said, now what's going on? So then they put the tube in my nose. And then at this time, my uncle getting worse. So they end up having to paralyze him from the waist down because he kept trying to get up out of that medicine. They couldn't give him more medicine because they would have gave him too much. He would have ended up dying from the medicine. So he kept waking up though, trying to take the tube out of his throat. So they had to paralyze him from the waist down. And then 2 days later, it just got real bad. So he was just unresponsive. And me, on the other hand, after putting that tube in my nose, I started sweating so bad that they had to change the sheets every day. And it was just for my neck. That was the only place that was sweating. So once I started to find out the virus, that it's like in your nasal, it's like right here somewhere, it kind of made sense. So when they first gave me when they tested me, it came back positive the next day. They gave me they gave me 3 pills. I took those. Now, the next day when they gave me medicine, it wasn't the same pills. And I seen that. So, immediately I called my mom. I was like, Mom, these is 3 different pills of what they gave me last time. My mom said, don't take them. Wait a minute. So this whole time I'm laying down. I'm not moving. That was earlier when I talked to her. She called me probably around 9 o'clock and she said, I need you to get up. I need you to get up and I need you to start moving around. I couldn't. Literally, if I set up, I'm out of breath. The bathroom probably was like not even a foot from my bed. It took me 30 minutes to get from the bathroom to the bathroom and back, so a whole hour, because I was literally out of breath. My chest was on fire. So once my mom told me to start moving around, open up the curtains, get that sunlight, don't take none of that medicine. I didn't take no medicine. She said, eat all the fruit that you can. Don't drink no cold water. I did that for maybe a day and a half. That was, so on Tuesday, my oxygen went back up to 80. And I was able kind of to eat now. So I was feeling better. So I was asking them, there was a girl that was next door to me that had it. She was a white girl. She was probably 29. We couldn't really talk to nobody, so me and her would talk on the phone because it was so new to us. We was asking each other how we was feeling and all that. So I ended up leaving to come home April 9th. I think I got discharged at 1:36. She passed away at 11:30 that morning. So when that happened, I said, oh, this is like real. So when everybody found out I had it, my phone was going crazy. And they like, you sure you got it? I said, you sure you ain't got no cold? I said, man, let me tell you something. This nowhere near as a cold. I felt like, so I think that's the first time, I think day 6, I didn't think I was going to make it. That's how my body felt. Like it felt like my body was shrinking. It felt like I had 1,000,000 hands on my throat and they were just squeezing. So I'm like, man, I told my mom, I was like, look, if this is it, I'm going to call you. I just want you to play some music for me. But she was like, nah, when she told me to get up and start moving around as much as I can, that's when I started feeling better. When I started sitting in the chair with the sunlight and all that, it could have been a coincidence. I don't think it is. Because when I took the medicine the first day, I got worse the next day. So they sent me home with when they discharged me, they sent me home with some pills. I didn't take that. My mom got some type of water and some type of tea. I was drinking that. And I was eating plums, oranges, grapes, and lemons. And probably within a week, I was kind of back to myself. But my breathing still isn't back. I went out to walk. I was walking for 10 minutes and I was out of breath. And I work out. I work out every day. I eat right, vitamins, all that. So I know it's still affecting though. I most definitely know that. My uncle came home May 13th. Me and him talked for a real long time, and he was just like, I need you to take care of the family. That's what you acting like you here. He was free of the COVID and all that, but see, he had been in the hospital for 56 days. So he had a trach. He had a trach. He was real small. I lost 36 pounds. He probably lost about 51. He was real small, and I'm looking like, and I felt something when me and him was talking. We talked for like 3 hours. The next day, I get into an accident. The guy hit me. He passed away when he hit me. Now, the guy who hit me, he had COVID also, and he had when we just found this out too, something triggered, because he wasn't drunk or anything, but something with that virus and something that he had preconditioned, something mixed, and it caused a reaction, and he lost consciousness and hit me. The day after that, I almost got killed in that accident. So I'm like, I just had COVID. I said, and then I almost died in an accident. I said, but at least I made it. I was both of them, my uncle home, and then my uncle passed the next day.
Oh my God.
He passed the next day. So even though he was COVID free, he was free of the virus. That virus, it did that. most definitely, because he died because he couldn't breathe. He was short of breath and he couldn't breathe on top of the thyroids, and that's what happened. So,
So wait, so they released him from the hospital, and then he
they didn't
symptoms so.
They had to tell him that he's able to be released. He shouldn't have been released. He should at least been in there, because he couldn't walk. He couldn't walk, so he was supposed to go through therapy for 60 days. But my uncle was so ready to come home, which I understand. He still wasn't thinking about the long term. I believe if my uncle would have stayed in there and did rehab, my uncle would still be here. But once he came out of here, and then that day they went to the bank, it was too much moving for him. It was too much, too fast. And, I know that's what happened. So a lot of people, they don't think it's real, because I still DJ in the bars and stuff now, and I don't allow them to come up to where I'm at. I don't allow it, because supposedly when you get it, you can't get it again. Because even with my uncle, all that medicine that they was giving him was not working. The day I donated plasma. He took it. I did it on the 17th. They gave it to him on the 19th. He was starting to be responsive the very next day. That can't be no coincidence either. He was in the hospital for 51 days. None of this medicine was working. Like none of it until they got my plasma. So I don't know. I know black people, especially like us, they don't nobody think it's real. Or they really don't, or they don't think they gonna catch it. They don't care. I know it. Cause I'm in the bars, and one bar that enforces it, that I DJ at is Elegant. They don't play. You gotta have. They make you wear gloves. They got the plastic things up. They got sanitized everywhere, so they don't play around. But I've been in bars where people would come in with no mask. They sneezing. I'm seeing them going in the bathroom and coming right out. I know you're not washing your hands. Right. They shaking hands. And they shaking each other's hands, they touching stuff, the pool sticks, they smoking, and I'm just looking like, so y'all think it's a joke, huh? I said, wait till your mom or one of your kids get it, right? And then then it's gonna be one of those. Oh, I wish I would have, but nah.
Hey, did you ever find out what the pills were? That why were the pills different? What were they giving you? And
every time I asked them a question,
your mom, by the way, knowing what to do.
They didn't know anything. So one woman told me one thing. I wrote it down. I end up asking another nurse the same thing. Oh, absolutely, it's this. So I wanted to say, well, why the nurse tell me it was this? So I waited. When them other pills came, and I asked her what this was, she was like, "Oh, this is to help you get better." I said, "Well, I know that," but I said, "What is it? What's the name of it?" She was like, "Well, I don't know if we can release that. So you want me to taste something that you can't tell me the name of?" I said, "All right, I'll take it." I put it inside of my mouth. As soon as she turned around, I spit it. Like, nah. And they probably drew blood from me. I was in the hospital for 8 days. They probably drew blood about 23 times. Like literally, they just kept sticking me. And I'm like, man, what is going on? I said, y'all gotta stick me again. And then she stuck me. Like, so the hospital, they took care of me, but they don't know what to do.
Right.
And then it's hard, and my mom was like, well, I ain't gonna get it because, I wear gloves and I disinfect my phone. I said, but Mom, because she went to the grocery store and she was like, well, I made sure I wiped everything down and I pick up what I'm gonna buy. I said, but Mom, how you know there was a person that didn't touch that before you picked it up?
Right.
Then she like, so now she going crazy. And I'm like, but Mom, if you're gonna get it, you're gonna get it. That I just don't see how you cannot not get it.
Now,
that's how I feel.
Councilwoman Councilwoman Kearney, this goes back to the conversation that we had with the doctor a few weeks ago, where he said that this is just so early. And with most viruses or most illnesses, people need time to study them. And because it's so early, they're still probably learning as they go. Now, Patrice, I saw you nodding your head as he was saying a lot of the things that he experienced. Are these similar experiences that you had as well? I know this is hard, so take your time. And if we need to come back, we can. I understand.
I've got to say, you all are really, as I said before, this is life-saving. Sharing your stories with us is really, really life-saving for people. So important.
So normally I'm not choked up, but I'm still experiencing it because my father is on a ventilator, and now we're talking about the trait with him. And I'm happy you mentioned, I actually was going to back out of doing this because I'm just overwhelmed. But I am happy that you mentioned the plasma because I'm also my father's kidney donor.
Oh, wow.
And if I need to call the doctor when I get off of this and say, do I need to give him plasma, I will. But I I don't know when I contracted it. I was always told that this was a bad allergy season. So my birthday is June 26th. And, somewhere around my birthday, I start, my sinuses was acting up. But I have sinuses, I have allergies, so I wasn't thinking anything of it. My mother also contracted it as well, which I think she got it from me. And she is a cancer patient, high blood pressure, and congestive heart failure. So I have like a lot of different things coming at me. I thought we were being as safe as possible. I was one of those types, like, I'm not leaving the house, I'm not doing anything. And I was trying to be helpful to a client, flew to Los Angeles for a day, was flying back the very next morning. When I got back, I thought maybe I was just tired from the trip back and forth. So I slept the whole way on the plane, and normally I could sleep and then I can just continue to go, but I was just tired. And I went home, I said, I'm gonna get in the shower, go grab me a salad so I can come back home and get some rest, because I was gonna come into the office the next day, which happened. Got back on a Tuesday. I never ate my salad that day. And I laid down, when I woke up, I laid down at 5 o'clock in the evening. When I woke up, it was 7 o'clock the next day. And I'm like, oh, I'm starting to feel like my head is just hurting. Like, I can't get rid of this headache. So typically when I have a headache, I drink coffee to get rid of it. I'm not big on taking medicine. I'm drinking the strongest type of Starbucks coffee that you can drink, and my headache is not going away. I ended up leaving my office early, and I just told my business partner, I said, listen, I got to go home and just lay down. Like, I don't know why I'm so tired still. But I felt bad because she just did the same trip I did, and I knew she was tired too. So I'm just like, something's just not right. So I go home, I lay down. This is a Wednesday night. I'm asleep by 4. Actually, I went to Target first, but I couldn't even get out the car to go into Target. I had enough energy to get in my house and go to bed. Drive back home, go get in the house, go to bed. And I woke up at 11 o'clock that night. So I slept from 4 to 11. And when I woke up completely drenched in sweat. My bed is wet. I'm wet. My shirt is sticking to me. My pants are wet. I'm like, did I pee on myself? Like, what? I'm too grown for this. So when I woke up, I honestly didn't know where I was at. I'm like sitting on the edge of my bed, and I'm like, where am I? Like, I'm looking around. Nothing seemed familiar. Nothing smelled familiar. I'm thinking I'm losing my mind. So I'm like walking around upstairs, and I'm like touching the walls, like, where the heck am I? And I'm like, am I dreaming? But I'm hot. I'm just sticky. I'm hot. I'm like, did somebody turn the air off? Is somebody trying to set me on fire? Like, what is going on? So I take a cold shower. So at this point, my body goes into shock because I'm just like cold. I'm just standing there now, like sweating, but in a cold shower, which I probably shouldn't have done. I probably should have taken like a cool shower, but that's just how much I was not really there. So I kind of come to, and I stepped in my room, and I remember laughing at myself like, girl, you tripping. And I'm like changing my sheets because I realized, okay, I was just sweating. So I'm thinking, okay, it's menopause. I'm laughing at I'm like literally trying not to think negative. So I realized when I was in the shower, I didn't smell my soap. So I'm like putting on lotion. I can't smell my lotion. I'm spraying body spray. I'm like, they have literally put water in my body spray. I'm telling myself everything but COVID. So then I just got some brand new perfume for my birthday. Oh, they only did. Okay, sorry about that. Just got brand new perfume for my birthday, and I decided to try to spray it, and all I could do was lay there and cry. I'm like, I got COVID.
You couldn't smell it? You couldn't smell it?
I couldn't smell it. And so, of course, we know that that's like your first sign, you have it. So I laid there. I text my business partner, hey, I'm not going to be in tomorrow, because normally I open up I kept telling myself, so I started looking online, CVS, the different like, pull up, get swabbed, and they didn't have any appointments. So I'm just like, I don't want to go to the ER, but because I am a kidney donor, they take that so serious, and I didn't want them to admit me. And it's like they want to draw blood, they want to test every single thing, which is a blessing, but I just didn't want to go through that process. I didn't want to sit in the ER by myself. I was scared. And so the next morning, which was a Thursday, I woke up and I had a fever. I'm hot. Like, everything about me is hot. I'm feeling, I'm like, oh my goodness. I was like, I'm really sick. I checked my temperature. It was 103. And so I tell my mom, I'm like, Mom, I have a fever. And she said, well, maybe that has something to do with, why you're feeling the way you're feeling. Because I kept saying, I'm confused. Where am I? Like, something's not right. Then I kept telling her my chest is tight. I can't walk up and down the stairs. Like, it's taking me a while to get to the bathroom. And she's like, maybe you should go to the hospital. So I sleep from that morning. I woke up at 7:00 in the morning. I don't wake back up till 6:00 in the evening.
So this is Thursday.
This is Thursday.
Okay.
And I'm still not saying anything to anybody, but I know I have never felt anything like this. So I end up just saying, okay, tomorrow, if this fever hasn't broken and if I feel worse, I'm just going to go to the ER. I wake up Friday morning, and Friday morning was like the day I was like, nah, this is my last day here on earth. Honestly, that's how I felt. Like, I was like, this is it. I wake up, and I'm a stickler about going to the ER without showering, because I'm like, I don't know how long I'm going to be there and when I'm going to get a shower again, so let me get a shower. So I wake up, I take a shower, I gather up enough strength, and I just put my clothes on. I tell my mom, I'm going to go to the ER because something is definitely wrong. I get to the ER, I'm feeling confused again. But now I'm in the ER, but I'm just circling around and circling around and circling around. And valet runs out and says, ma'am, do you need us to park for you? And I just kind of looked at her, and she said, I remember when I came to it, she just said, I'm so happy you look so much better, because you kept looking at me like, yeah, maybe I need help. And so, but then when I stood up, she said, do you need a wheelchair? And I'm like, I'm just so weak. I was just so weak, but I'm kind of trying to keep a smile on my face. And she ran and got a wheelchair. She says, don't worry about paying. I will just bring your keys and have them bring it to you. But she wheeled me back and said she needs help immediately. So I didn't end up waiting. Wow. They tried to get an IV in my arm to give me fluids because I was like flushed. Like, my skin color was like, I was pale. I looked sick. I had dark circles under my eyes, so they knew immediately. So the first thing I always say is like, hey, I'm a kidney donor. Like, just so that they can, if something is going wrong, they know not to give me iodine. They know not to give me ibuprofen. Like, you just have to say it. So immediately they're trying to draw blood, and they can't get a vein because I'm so dehydrated. So they have me drink some type of fluid. And they're like, and now we're going to take you back for an x-ray. And then I go to a waiting, like a room. And so the doctor came in and says, okay, you have an infection in your lungs. But my oxygen was good. So he didn't feel a need to keep me. And he said, so we're getting an IV put in, and we just want to run your labs. So you'll sit here, we'll monitor you and give you as much fluid as we possibly can. And then the nurse came in to discharge me, and she says, we're going to give you a steroid to help clear up your lungs, and we're going to give you some type of cough medicine. It was called like Tessalon Pearl or something. And I'm like, what? Okay. And so I'm like, it was.
Wait, Patrice, they haven't tested you for COVID yet though, right?
No. So I said, okay. So she was like, and then she's like talking to me, like giving me like the discharge, like, so when you go home, lay on your chest and, keep it open, treat this like a cold, how you would heal yourself with a cold. And I'm like, but this doesn't feel like a cold, and I can't breathe. Like, my chest is heavy. So there is now a Black doctor that comes in and he says, I just wanted to come in. I heard you were a kidney donor, that's so heroic. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. I want to hear that, but I feel sick. I'm weak. And so he says, did we swab her? And she was like, no, we just know that's what it is from her x-ray. He said, you guys aren't sending her home without swabbing her. So I'm looking at him like, I understood what he was saying, but I was terrified to be swabbed. So here they come with this long thing.
Oh.
And I'm like, where is that going? And she was like, so she's like holding it up. And so she was like, about this much will go up in your nose. And I was like, she said, so she did the whole on the count of 3. When we got to 2, it went up. And when it went up, nothing but mucus came out of my mouth. Like I threw up everywhere. So then they were like, we're going to watch you for another 4 hours. So I sat there for another 4 hours for them to literally observe me. I finally ended up going home. I came home, laid down. About 3 o'clock in the morning, they called and they sent me my results and they said I had tested positive. So I then told my mother, whom I live with, hey, I tested positive for COVID, knowing that my mother has so many other ailments going against her. I wanted her to know that, okay, Mom, this is my worst fear because you've been so sick all my life. So here's my worst fear is that you're having it. Now, she did have a headache and she was a little congested, but it was nothing like I felt. So when my mom got to the hospital, she explained to them, my daughter tested positive. And, I just need to get tested because of my other ailments. And they tested her. They ended up keeping her for 2 days because they really needed to observe her and her oxygen had dropped below 80. And then the next day, my dad calls me and goes, hey, he was like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, the same thing that's wrong with you. Because my sister had called me and told me that my dad had tested positive because everyone who knows me knew that that was my biggest fear for my parents to get sick. Not even me, but for my parents.
Right.
And, I don't know what happened, but mentally, it was like my world crashed. So
because now both of your parents are sick.
Now both of my parents are sick, yes. So as the next day, Saturday kicks in, Sunday, I was calling people like, so yeah, I don't think I'm gonna make it. And I'm scared to go to sleep. That's how bad it was. So from Friday to Sunday, I never went to sleep because I was so scared. I was just like, I am going to die. This is how sick I am. I don't have energy to even get in the shower. Like when my mom when she got home, she was like, I'll help you in the shower. It's okay. And I'm like, this is not okay. It's just not okay at all. So a good friend of mine said, Patrice, I said, I do feel like the steroid is working, but I stopped taking the cough medicine because it wasn't working. It didn't make me feel good. So she says, I am going to reach out to Dr. Sebi's daughter, and I'm going to have her send you sea moss, elderberry that they make themselves. Like, they're going to ship this to you, and I need you to take it. And I'm like, at this point, I'm taking anything. So I drank tea all day long. I drank lukewarm water. I drank sea moss probably 3 times a day. I took it and then I would follow it up with water. I went the natural route. I did a lot of turmerics for the inflammation in my chest to continue treating that. A lot of ginger to just kind of break it all up. I steamed my face 3 times a day. I had already purchased a steamer when the pandemic had broken out because that was one of the things that it'll loosen it up. Like, it was one of the things everybody kept saying. So I had a face steamer where I steamed my face 3 times a day. For the first 4 days, I slept sitting up when I did finally, like when I could doze off here and there. But once my mom was at home, I started sleeping during the day and I would lay on my chest and sleep. Right. So that did work for me. I wasn't ashamed to tell people, but I felt like, let me get through it. You know, I wanted to like not tell people I'm okay and I'm not really okay. So I wasn't ashamed to tell people. I was scared. And, you know, you just don't want to tell people because nobody knows what this virus is. Everybody is learning, from the doctors to the health departments. Everybody is trying to figure it out. My aunt is a scientist for the CDC, and she says we're learning things not day by day, but minute by minute. Every case is different. Everybody reacts different. If you're a blood type B, you have it harder than a blood type O. Like, everybody is different. So I ended up talking to me and my dad, the surgeon who took my kidney and put it into my dad, because I'm like, I feel like I'm talking to my dad and I know how I feel. I feel like he needs to be in the hospital. He sounds horrible.
Oh, wow, yeah.
I called my stepmom. I said, I feel like he needs to go to the ER. And she's like, I keep trying to get him to go, but men sometimes think, you know, I'll be okay. Right. She went into his room. So this was the following week, which was a Thursday. So today marks 21 days he's been in the hospital, and about 15 of those 21 days he's been on a ventilator. So she went into the room, and my dad was unresponsive and he was completely blue. So she called 911. His oxygen had got to 52. And then they took him into the ER and they intubated him as soon as he got to the ER. My dad was awake. He was taking selfies on the ventilator. So they were like, we've never seen anything like this. My father is a DJ. He is the head of the Laborers Local 310 Union here in Cleveland. He has DJs all under him. Like so he has so much support. So DJs are like reaching out to me like, so he's not that bad, huh? Because he sent me a picture and I'm like, no, he is that bad. He can't breathe.
He's on a ventilator. Yeah.
He's on a ventilator. Like, it's the craziest thing. So what happened was, because I started worrying about my dad, it started prolonging my recovery. And I wasn't resting, because now it's like, I'm calling the hospital because I can't see him. I'm calling the hospital like every 2 hours, so I'm not sleeping. So we've been on a roller coaster ride. So I finally feel better, but I'm still not 100% myself. I get tired very, very fast. Like, I need to go lay down. So when I'm done with this, I'll probably leave here and then go take a nap, and then I'll get back up and do some work. So I feel better, but I'm not 100%. Like, I can't run, I can't walk for long periods of time. So my doctor did tell me that in 3 weeks, they'll test me because I probably have some lung damage due to the virus. They are finding that people are still battling with it 3 months after they've been cleared or tested negative. And so my father's situation had really kind of prolonged my progress in my recovery. And so now my dad, like I said, he's on a ventilator now for the 3rd time. And they're just testing.
Put him on and off. I mean, they took him off because he was doing better and then just put him back on.
Right. So what was happening is that they would take him off because his numbers were great. He was at 98% with his oxygen. He was keeping it in himself. He was on the lowest setting on the ventilator. So they were saying it's just no point of keeping him on this ventilator. But when he would come off, he couldn't keep oxygen in. Okay. So he would be on the highest level on the CPAP machine. And they were like, this is just not safe, because he had rapid breathing, and then it became shallow. Okay. So this last time when they had to put him back on the ventilator, and I had a little more energy to kind of research things and then call other doctors, you know, I asked them, like, can you please not take him off the ventilator just because the numbers say something, because there's something else going on. So the beginning of this week, they thought he was going into heart failure. And they decided, after they did put a Swan catheter through his neck, that he does not have heart failure, but he has now developed something called acute respiratory distress syndrome, which I don't know what's worse. The heart failure or this, because now what's happened is the fluid around his lungs is now hard. So his lungs are hard. So he can't push any air out on his own. So now they're trying a 10-day steroid. 5 days high dosage, 5 days low dosage. That could work, that could not work. I'm praying that it works.
We're praying that it works too.
It will work.
How is your mom doing, Patrice?
My mom actually is fine. She's like,
oh, that's good.
And I'm very thankful that it didn't attack her the way that it attacked my dad and I, because she's very fragile already. Right. But my dad, you know, and then they're talking about the trade now. So I've just been wondering so many things, because that's something my dad did not want. So for me to have to make that decision to put the trach in, I'm in limbo. But I have until Monday to make that decision. So they told me I had until today, but they changed it to Monday in hopes that his lungs are softening up and moving out. And I asked God to break his fever and heal his lungs, and he broke the fever. So I believe that he'll also heal his lungs. But this is not a game.
Is it a permanent trait? Do you know?
I'm sorry?
Is it a permanent trait? Do you know that?
No, they said it could be very temporary.
Because the one my uncle had, his hole was closing up. So it was closing up. So I don't know. Wow. Yeah, this.
Glori, Glori, are you unmuted? So
yeah, I think. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Tell us about
Hi.
Glori.
My name is Glori Smith. I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio, and I reside in South Carolina. I'm actually up in Cleveland traveling now, visiting. I take care of my mother. My mother is in her last stages of multiple sclerosis, and she has COPD. I put my mom's videos up all the time because everybody loves her. She was abused by a caregiver 5 years ago when I brought her to live with me. So, you know, everybody loves Gigi. So I put my mother into a nursing home. Let me see, 3 weeks now, maybe almost 4 weeks now. My husband was killed last year, so this was Tuesday the 6th, his 1 year anniversary. I put my mother into the nursing home maybe 2 weeks prior to that. The day after 6th, I think was the 7th, that Wednesday of July, I got a phone call from the nursing home. My mother was only going there for 2 weeks for rehab because she wanted to learn how to pop wheelies. Pop wheelies with her new wheelchair. So I gave permission for the hospital because she had a urinary tract infection. She didn't have any COVID. She was good. She's been home with me. I make sure my house is sterile. They know when they come in, I'm hitting you with thermometers. You got to dress up. I'm not playing no games.
Right.
So she went into the hospital for a UTI, and I was talking to the case manager there. They said, well, you know, she has a couple weeks of rehab, and she had just got a brand new wheelchair. So I said, okay. They found a rehab that didn't have any COVID cases. Supposedly, they didn't have any open COVID cases. So I agreed to that, and that was the only reason why I agreed to it.
Right.
And they ended up putting my mother in there just to learn how to use her new wheelchair for 2 weeks. They put my mother on the outside room because, like, I'm a stalker when it comes to my mom. So she was on the outside room. So I would drive up every day. On the outside, I bought her a little cell phone so she could talk to me.
Oh, that's good, yeah.
And let me know what's going on. So it was that Wednesday, the 7th, I think it was at 7. They called me and said, your mother just had a temperature of 102 degrees 2 days prior. I said, so why is y'all calling me now? Why did you wait 2 days to call me? Because I talked to the head of nursing. We go back and forth to make sure she's good in there, make sure no cases are open in there. So that Wednesday they called me. I was actually in Whole Foods buying her elderberry, buying her vitamin C, because I made sure she had all these type of stuff to keep her immune system built up because it is very weak. So I was in Whole Foods and they called me and I ended up leaving there and I went up there. So of course I couldn't see my mother. I haven't seen my mother since all this has happened. So I was outside of her window. When I got there, a young lady walked up to me and told me, you know, don't let them fool you. They do have cases in here. And I'm like, what? So I called the director of nursing. The director of nursing said that two employees brought the COVID in, that they just tested positive for it.
Oh.
So I said, okay. So that Wednesday, they tested her in front of me, her temperature went down. It was no longer 102. But when I went up there that Sunday, I knew something was wrong. I couldn't put my finger on it because they said no open cases, so I'm going with that. That Wednesday when I got up there, they took her temperature. It went down back to 97. So I said, okay. I tried. They wouldn't give her any elderberry. They wouldn't give her anything that I've been giving her at home to make sure that her immune system was built up. So that Wednesday afternoon, I ended up going back home. I said, you know what, let me go home. I'm going to make her the ginger, the lemon, all the stuff that I normally give her at home. Let me go make some, and I'm going to wait till the night shift comes in because I know somebody in that nursing home on the night shift will sneak it in her room for me.
Okay.
So something told me to go back up there about 8:30 that night. I went in there. So I went outside. My mother's window was closed. Now, they always know to keep her blinds open so I can see her because I do pop-ups. I rang the doorbell for the nursing home. A CNA went around there and opened up her blinds for me. They had my mother in that room. My mother wears continuous oxygen. My mother was laid all the way down. With continuous oxygen, you have to be up a certain way. She was laid all the way down, no lights on. Her oxygen was off. She was shaking her head because of her MS. She shakes her head, but I knew something else was wrong. So the CNA put the oxygen back on her. So meanwhile, I'm waiting for this nurse to come in. He's taking forever. He took about 20 minutes to get to my mother's room. He went in there. He took my mother's temperature. My mother's temperature had shot back up to 101. Now, mind you, my mother has COPD, so she already has a lung issue. They should have got her out of there 2 days ago. I had another nurse that came in there, and they was like, well, you got to hurry and get her out of here because of her lungs, for one, and then her MS. They called 911, and they put my mother in the hospital. By that Wednesday night, I got a phone call. They took her test. That Thursday, they were on the ICU floor. She hadn't been admitted to the ICU. She was just on the floor. So that Thursday, you know, I'm FaceTiming her so she can see me and hear me and know.
That's good, yeah.
And I'm like, Mom, you got it. You got to pull through this. It's not your time. So that was that Thursday. By that Friday, I got a phone call from a doctor to tell me to remove my mother off of her oxygen, give her morphine, and let her go slowly. That was that Friday.
What?
So I told that doctor, I was really going to meet that doctor outside. I really am. I just couldn't believe that she was that heartless. So that's what she told me that Friday afternoon, about 4 or 5. And I was like, no. I said, whatever you need to do to save my mother, that's what you need to do. They said, okay. By that 4 o'clock that morning, going into that Saturday, I got a call saying that she was being admitted to the ICU and that she was being put on a respirator. Now, with the COPD and the MS, it's kind of hard with my mother to have a respirator. They can't take the respirator in and out because it's going to do, I forgot what it's called, but it does damage to the lungs because she wasn't strong enough. So they kept the respirator. She had to go on the respirator. She was unconscious. It maybe about 5 days. So every day I would FaceTime her. I took a CD player up there. I took her favorite CDs. I said, well, I want y'all to play this for her. So I'm FaceTiming her every day so she can hear my voice. And then I would call different people so she can hear their voices and say prayers with her. So it took about 7 days for her to come up out of it. But by this time, she's just blinking and talking to me through her eyes, but she can't talk. then I started getting like pictures of I got grandkids, so she lives for them. So I started like doing pictures, taking frames up just to surround her room,
Right.
with family, because we can't be in there. So that's the week after that, which was the beginning of the last week, or my weeks is mixed up. They called me and told me that my mother could no longer take the respirator, and I would have to give permission for her to get a trach. And if she didn't get the trach, that she would drown in her fluids, and that I might as well send her somewhere to be comfortable to go again. This is this word comfortable that they throw around so easily at the hospital because they don't know what to do. So I had to give permission for her to get the trach. And my mother is like, her videos are everywhere. So that was one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make, because they said it's a possibility that she can't get off the trach. That one doctor is telling me, the lung doctor says she could, then the other doctor is coming back, because you got to remember, every week it's a new doctor. So every 7 days they switch off. So you're getting new, you're hearing new stuff from each doctor. You got different people coming in with different suggestions or however, whatever, because they still don't know anything.
And that's got to be hard, because you're trying to figure all this out and you're getting all these different messages from different people. That's tough.
It's very hard.
Yeah.
I remember the last doctor that was there. He told me, he said, they will advise you to do the trach because it's easier for them. If you get permission to do the trach, it's easier for them to be able to drain the fluids and get it out of them instead of going down like they're supposed to. But of course, they're in a hospital, so we can't help them do the elderberry and the natural and the steam. There's no way. So I had to give permission for that trach. And that was a hard decision, because it's a chance that my mother might not talk, or she might not ever get off of that. And my mother never wanted that. That was the last thing that she wanted, because the last thing she has is her voice. So I gave permission for them to do the trach. I think maybe it was that Tuesday they did the surgery. By that Thursday, they were ready to move my mother out of this hospital and put her in a new hospital, because they said they wanted to take her out of ICU and put her on a regular floor. But when they go on a regular floor out of the ICU, they don't get as much care, because that one-on-one nurse is gone now.
Right.
So now my mother has a trach in her. She doesn't look good at all.
And Glori, can I ask
Can't
you,
eat.
was she ever tested for COVID during all this? Did they ever test?
She was tested. She was positive.
Oh, they did.
Before she went into that nursing home, before you go into the nursing home, you have to test. She was negative. She didn't have it.
Negative, right.
They tested her twice. So she didn't have it when she went in there, but when they tested her when she got admitted,
okay,
that Wednesday, that the test results Thursday come back positive. They came back positive.
I got you.
So now my mother is in another hospital in ICU with a feeding tube and a trach. So they put a speaking valve on her yesterday, so I was able to hear her say something, but she said she was very tired, that she couldn't talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
So there's nothing you really can do. All you can do is really pray. I would, but my mother did get the plasma. I am going to tell you that, Patrice. When she got that plasma, it did help. They gave her another drug from the CDC, which I forgot the name of it. They said that this drug was supposed to help my mom. And if that didn't help her, then they wanted to try the plasma. So I have a girlfriend here in Cleveland that was actually running the plasma place here. So I called her to ask her advice. I'm like, is this plasma good? Because I don't know. Anything else I know about the MS and the COPD, but this plasma I don't know about. She said the plasma is very helpful. I did notice when my mother when she did get the plasma, it took them a few days for them to get it in, because it was a shortage. After the plasma, she did start to feel better.
Okay.
I did notice that. So my suggestion is, if you want to, I would do it, because I know I did it for my mom.
And Glori,
the trach is going to be hard.
Yeah, so the plasma is from someone who had COVID, right?
Who's already had COVID.
So they're thinking antibodies are in it, and it's going to help your body fight it.
Yes.
Okay.
I do. The first medicine that they gave her didn't help, but that plasma did. The trach, I had no choice.
They gave her a steroid?
I don't know. I don't think they gave my mom steroids.
Okay.
They never mentioned that to me. because I had to hurry up and make that decision. I held off as long as I possibly could for that trach. Because like your dad, my mom did not want that trach. That's the last thing. But because they said it was temporary,
Right.
I went on ahead and gave permission because I couldn't see my mother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So right now she's still in ICU, and she's still, I don't know. I'm just praying every day that she pulls through.
She was talking
Kind
to
of
you.
hard.
Yeah. She was
She
talking.
said a word to me.
Okay.
Last night she did. Last night she was able to FaceTime me, and she was able to talk just a little bit, but she was tired.
You're right.
She was very tired. So now they're giving my mother 3 to 6 weeks to get off the feeding tube, because if she doesn't pull off this feeding tube and she can't eat or swallow, then there's going to be a whole nother issue. And I can't even deal with yet. I'm not even ready to deal with it yet. So all I can do is pray.
For the best. And obviously, like the father, especially DJ Johnny Young, your father is a hero to a lot of us. He has touched so many lives, mine included. Man. And I know that for myself, I know I serve a strong God that is capable and able to do miracles and to change the outcome of all of this. God is bigger than COVID. And so I will be in faith with you, Patrice and Glori, on just a speedy recovery for y'all's parents. But I just need to tell you guys, thank you for even sharing your story, because after this, if you cannot see how real this virus is and take it serious, there's nothing else that I could even think to tell you. There's just nothing left to say after this.
Tropikana, you're right, because people, and DJ Merkout said it too, he sees it in the clubs, that people are thinking that they're invincible, that, like Black people can't get it or young people can't get it. But here are examples of, everybody can get it. And it's not an easy disease. DJ Merkout, was so sorry you lost your uncle. I wasn't expecting that to be the end of that story.
It happened so fast.
Right.
We were so, and the crazy thing is when it happened, I didn't even know it happened. When they went to the bank, the last thing he said to me was, don't eat all my, because I eat sweets. He said, man, don't eat all my candy. I see you when I get back. So I went to sleep. When I woke up, it was in the morning time, because I was still kind of recovering. So when I woke up and I seen it's like 10 cars in the driveway, I'm like, I'm talking to people and they must have thought that I knew. So I still didn't know. This was probably like an hour. And so when I seen everybody, I hugged everybody, and then I went downstairs. Then I went back upstairs like an hour later, like, y'all still right here for? So they looked at me like, you know why we here? I said, I don't know. So then they was like, Monty ain't make it. So when they said that, I was confused because he was just home. But when he came home, I felt it. His energy. I felt like I knew he came home for those 2 days, because only 3 people seen him. Me, my other little cousin, but he took care of us since we was born, and then his wife. So it was a reason why me and my little cousin was the last people to see him. None of his kids seen him. His mom couldn't see him. When you in the hospital too, it's like when I was in the hospital, it was like it was nothing. It was like Walking Dead in there. You didn't hear nobody. You didn't see nobody. You by yourself in this big, huge room. And I'm just like, man, we just had a trop, and I know you know about the party. We just had a whole pool party 2 weeks ago. A whole pool party.
Embarrassing.
And I'm just like, it had to be at least 800-900 people.
Oh, so he was there.
Oh my goodness.
They had to shut it down. And they still try to climb the fences at Coney Island to see Lil Boosie.
That wasn't going to happen. I mean, it was just a beach party. It was just a pool party in Atlanta. It's about 2,000 people. They asked me to DJ. I said, nah, I'm okay.
Merkout.
I said no, because even though they say that if you have it, you can't re-get it again, but you can carry it. So even if I am affected, even if I come across somebody who has it, I won't get sick. But if I go to somebody else, they can get sick. And people who have it and survive it, that's bad because now they feel invisible. Like, oh, I beat it, so now I don't got to wear gloves, and they still don't be. So that's, I mean, both of them.
DJ Merkout, let me just jump in on that because we've had a few doctors on these town halls, and they're saying that's not absolutely sure that you can't get it again. And someone mentioned that there were some cases where a person got it again. So you all be careful about that because it doesn't mean you can't. We're not sure that that's true.
Like you guys said, we are still researching and learning stuff every day. So just the idea of even you guys having to experience anything similar to that again is unimaginable. But just in closing, Merkout, where did you say you from? Because y'all don't get sick. Where you from again?
Downtown, man. And you know what's crazy? It's so many people downtown that's sick that has it. Like I personally know people who has it, who's positive right now, and they still out smoking with their
no mask, no nothing.
And the thing is, they're not telling, and they're not telling nobody. So I distance myself away from them.
People have to tell when. You have to notify people when you have contracted this virus, because it's as simple as a few, like it's a domino effect with this virus.
Right.
You know, I don't know where I contracted the virus from.
That's scary.
But
I
called people that I had been around and said, listen, I contracted the virus. The health department is going to call me. Now, some people are weird, like, I don't want the health department knowing my information, knowing I was around you. Okay, but I need to tell you that I have contracted this virus. And if you can go and quarantine, do so. Because you could be asymptomatic and not have any symptoms, yet you're carrying it.
You kill somebody's symptoms.
Right.
So, people, please, if you can get tested, because I know a lot of places won't test you unless you have doctor's orders or unless you go into the ER. But the ER will even tell you, no, we're not going to test you because you don't have a fever or you don't have other symptoms. But if
they weren't going to test you, I don't even understand that. I'm so glad that doctor came in and said to test you.
They were not going to test me. They were just going to say that I had the virus because I had the symptoms.
That's such a real issue in the state of Ohio. Montgomery County, my little sister, she started having symptoms about 3 weeks ago. And she felt so bad. And she went, to all the places you can go. She tried to go to the emergency room. And when she got there, she told them, I think I have COVID. These are what my symptoms are. And they would not test her. You had to have an appointment to get tested. So then they send you back home. You have to hopefully get an appointment, but if they're backed out, you can't get an appointment. So there are just, it's unfortunate that I'm very thankful that here in Cincinnati, very big thanks to the Health Gap and the city and UC Health for, the pop-up sites that we have been able to have across the city, but in other counties where they are getting access to the testing immediately or getting access to the results fast enough to know how to handle their situations at work. So definitely something definitely need to look at. But
and it sounds like too that there are some things that are working. I mean, I know nothing's guaranteed, but this getting plasma seems to work. And from what you all are saying, even you, DJ Merkout, you said your mother gave you some tea. Maybe it was elderberry tea. It sounds like elderberry tea is a big thing. We don't want people trying to treat themselves, but it certainly can't hurt, right?
But the treat itself seems to work more than the actual medicine.
We can't say that because we're not doctors, and it affects.
That's a good point.
Everybody is different.
Yes, right.
Everybody is different because there are certain things, honestly, where I had elderberry before my father went into the emergency. I'm like, Dad, take this. And he's like, I can't take it because that'll conflict with the autoimmune suppressants that I take to keep me alive. So everything, depending on what you're taking and depending on what other diseases you may be battling with, has a different effect. I will say that drinking the tea though, the tea definitely gave me comfort. Like I could feel it going down, but we do have to start thinking about preventative measures before these things happen, before viruses strike us. We have to take care of ourselves better with what we put into our bodies, because I did lose 10 pounds. That was probably the only thing from COVID that I was like, okay, I'll take this part. But it did make me think like I need to start treating my body better, because maybe I would be able to fight this off a little better than I am fighting it off. So I think the preventative measures are very, very important. Getting those daily vitamins, the vitamin C, the vitamin D that a lot of us don't know we really, really need. We do need sun outside, but in Ohio, we're all vitamin D deficient. But we do need to take better care of ourselves. So when these type of pandemics strike or anything strikes, we are better prepared, because I think as people, we weren't prepared for this. We all thought we were invincible. We all let our guards down. And if a person doesn't live in your house, don't let them in.
Right.
You know, so I think that
wear
that's
those
just
mask up. Everybody, we still need to mask up and social distance. All these, parties and pool parties and being in clubs like that. Just all those things have to wait. They just have to wait.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for joining us today and sharing your story. This is so heartfelt and inspiring, and call to action for prayer for all of us, you included, Merkout. Hope you get your breath back. I know you have such a hard time breathing in the club.
I be holding my breath.
I hope so.
I'll send everybody some masks. I started a mask company after all of this.
Oh, fantastic. That's great. Well, we're praying for your mom, Glori.
Thank you.
We are praying for you and your dad, and we're so glad your mom has recovered. DJ Merkout, we're praying for you. You all, please be safe. I know Renee Mahaffey Harris probably wants to close this out, and I think she's on the call. Renee, are you on there?
I am here. Well, first of all, I wanted to say my prayers are with each of you. I ask God what is going on in this world, and what I do know is that He is going to see us through. Absolutely. And so I want to really, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you for sharing what were some difficult stories, I'm sure, to talk to those of us who don't know. But I want you to know how important it is that you have shared, because people need to hear truths. They need to understand that we got to take this seriously. We got to learn from each other, and we got to hold each other accountable. I think it's DJ Merkout, as you talked about the things that are still happening. Patrice, you made a really important point, which is our country has not focused on preventative care. It is focused on sick care. And we live in environments that oftentimes don't give us access to what we need. And so now we must push and force equality in all things to enable us to have strong immune systems and have access to what we need to live healthy lives. And so, Patrice, you talked about what we need to do for ourselves. Our immune systems are compromised not only by the environments, but by the stress that we bear as Black people in America. And stress tears down our immune system. So all I feel right now is God saying, we got to help each other. We are our brother's keepers. And I'm very grateful for you sharing. And Tropikana, I thank you. I thank you for, your voice and each of your voices. And all we can do is keep telling the truth and holding each other accountable and asking God to continue to guide our path. So I thank each of you for being and sharing your stories today and sharing with us your personal information. And my prayers are for your recovery, and my prayers of peace for your families, for those of you who have lost family. So thank you so much again for being with us. And this is shouldn't be the end. We need your voices to continue to talk to your peers, to your family, to your friends. That is the only way. Because, you know, like we say in everything else, nobody's coming to save us. We must save ourselves.
Yeah, and thank you for your stories, because they are life-saving. People will listen to you and take heed. It's not like these are abstract cases. You're talking real life, real stories, and that's what really gets everybody's attention. So thank you for that. I know, hard to share. You guys are, you know, you're our heroes. We
That's
really
right.
appreciate you. Really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our prayers are with you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.